I'm Amy Mullen. I'm president of Money Quotient, and we also have Jim here from Money Quotient who helps with the technology side of things. So if anybody has any issues with seeing the slides or hearing me or anything, please use the chat window to reach out to Jim. You can also use the chat window to type any questions that you have, and I will address those as soon as I get through all the information I'm going to share. There's a lot of information, and I usually go up right to the last minute, but I want to make sure that I answer any questions. Of course, I will reach out to you also afterwards to see if you have any additional questions. But I'm going to jump right in. So this is the introduction to Money Quotient. I'm going to start off by providing a little bit of history of our organization and how we got to where we are now. And then I'll jump into the philosophy and the research that has created the education, the tools, the resources, the process that we train financial professionals to use with their clients. And then I'll give you some specifics about that model that we have developed so you can kind of understand maybe what it might look like if you were interested in becoming an MQ partner and utilizing the model that we've created. So, first of all, a little bit about our history, getting to know us a little bit. These pictures are Carol Anderson is the adult, which she still looks like a teenager, I feel like, but that's Carol Anderson. She's the founder of Money Quotient. She also is my mother. I'm the one sitting next to her on the swing. And the other picture is of me and my brother Mike. And this is really about the time that there was some pivotal points that happened in Carol's life that kind of sent her down this path that has become her life's work. This is what we're talking about today. So there were three pivotal points in Carol's life that really created the curiosity and the interest in pursuing what this is all about, what Money Quotient is all about today. So that first pivotal point was being faced with an unexpected divorce. And when she was trying to figure out how to take care of her small family on her own, she realized that personal finance was a big area that she did not have any education around. So she realized she didn't know how to handle her personal finances and began to seek out financial literacy courses. She very quickly realized that she was not alone. A lot of people didn't have education around their personal finances, and it wasn't just the preschool teachers like herself at the time, but also she realized that what she considered to be very highly educated people, like doctors and lawyers, also didn't seem to know what was going on with her personal finances. So that was very interesting to her. And she became quite a advocate for financial literacy courses. But in this journey, the third pivotal point that really sparked her curiosity was she came across some current research at the time, and unfortunately, it still holds true today. But she found some research that showed that even when people sought out personal financial education for themselves, there was little to no statistical correlation to them receiving that education and actually adopting the financial habits, the healthy financial habits or strategies that they learned in those courses. So this kind of blew her mind. Even when they wanted the education, they were not applying it. So this got her to be very curious. What is the missing piece here? What would actually help people to change their behaviors and build that motivation to take more action in their own financial lives? So, long story short, she started her own educational journey and got her master's degree. After getting her master's degree, she started a research and writing organization. She realized she really loved the research side of things. And and studied or had this research and writing organizations for another 10 years after getting her master's degree. Through that time, she was able to be a part of a lot of really interesting studies that were done by various nonprofits, organizations, and she also built out several workshops and tools and resources that applied the findings that they had, what would build, engage adults and individuals in learning and actually applying those learnings to their life. And then in the, let's see, late 90s, early 2000s, she came up with the concept of money quotient and realized, if we had an organization that were training these financial professionals and educators, then we could have a bigger ripple effect. The financial planners, financial counselors, financial coaches, and educators can put more of these missing pieces in the work that they do with their clients, and hopefully we begin to see better results. So she came up with the idea of Money Quotient, and Money Quotient was started, our organization, actually two organizations now, but we started in 2001. And since then, we've always had this very same mission. So I want to share that mission with you. The mission of Money Quotient is to facilitate the exploration and implementation of a values-based, life-centered approach to financial planning. We believe this holistic process engages individuals and empowers them to maximize their resources and live meaningful and purposeful lives. To this end, we conduct innovative research, provide the highest quality tools and training, and nurture a community of like-minded professionals who truly want to affect positive change in the lives of those they serve. So I was fortunate enough to get an invitation from my mother to come help her start this business back in 2001. And lo and behold, I fell in love with the work myself. So I went back to school and designed my own degree program to pull all the various disciplines together to understand the base of what helps us to be effective professionals with our clients in helping them adopt healthy financial behaviors. And together we have formed these two organizations. Money Quotient Inc. is the logo that you see on the left side. So we have two sister organizations that help us carry out this mission. In Money Quotient Inc., this is where we have developed a lot of educational programs. They're multidisciplinary perspective programs, so they pull in research from a lot of different disciplines and really help professionals to understand how to be effective communicators, how to engage their clients and motivate them to take action. We have also used all of these disciplines to actually develop a practical process that professionals can use if they choose. We do educational offerings for anybody who's interested, but we also have a specific model that we call the True Wealth Planning model that people can use. This includes tools that you can use in client meetings, a specific sequence of tools across a number of meetings. We have developed a whole lot of practice management resources as well, and specifically train and consult financial professionals to embed this model into their businesses. We call that school in which we teach this model our School of True Wealth. We also have a nonprofit organization, 501(c)(3), called MQ Research and Education. On this side, we collaborate with various universities across the country. We conduct new and innovative research with those organizations, all about what creates an effective relationship between a financial professional and their client, which is a pretty unique focus of research. And we also bring in research from these various disciplines, continuing to keep up on what's new out there that could be useful to our financial professionals. What's really fun and interesting is we also have at these various universities, they are able to use our materials, our tools, our process in their client-led clinics as they're learning to become financial professionals. And that's really fun to be able to see that in action. And in the future, we're not quite set up for this yet, but out of our nonprofit side, our plan is to build a platform that can be used by nonprofit organizations and financial professionals to be able to provide pro bono financial literacy programs as well as financial advice. So that is to come in the future. We do offer education out of our nonprofit side as well, and we call that our MQ University. So, as a Money Quotient professional, you can participate in educational offerings from both of these organizations. The Money Quotient Inc. side is going to focus more on the model that we've created and how to best use it. The nonprofit side has broader topics looking towards the future. How is financial advice, financial education going to evolve over time, and looking more deeply at that. So just a couple handfuls of some of the disciplines and theories and concepts that we have really focused in on and used as a lens in the development of our educational programs and our tools and model. Many here out of the home economics side of things, really understanding family dynamics and also how adults develop and learn, the environments that they learn best in, what motivates people. That self-determination theory is so important to understanding how to engage and motivate our clients. Empathetic listening, of course, is incredibly important in making connection with those clients as well. Here's another slide with a handful. Positive psychology is a huge umbrella that has lots of concepts and theories like appreciative inquiry underneath it. Stages of Change by Dr. James Prochaska is really an important model to understand psychologically how people make change so that we can support them in that. Principles of adult learning, coaching skills. Like I said, I'm just giving you a sprinkling of the sorts of concepts and theories that we have used as lenses when developing our educational offerings. So in terms of those educational offerings, we try to provide this in as many different formats as possible to make it easy and convenient for professionals to participate in. So we have tons of webinars, at least 2, if not more, every month. We also do various workshops. We do 4-hour virtual workshops, but we are also creating, customizing workshops for organizations that are looking for education in particular areas as well. We have longer courses too that run 8 to 10 weeks where you're following an online classroom, but you also have live sessions with a cohort of people. And then, of course, we specifically do trainings around the model that we have developed that incorporates all of these different disciplines. So quite a number of different educational offerings, and many of them come with a lot of CE credit as well. So even if you're not a Money Quotient partner, you can still participate in many of these educational opportunities. So be sure to check out our event calendar. Jim could put that in the chat window. Okay, so just to share a kind of high level, what Carol had discovered were missing pieces of really motivating people to implement the financial education that they were getting, or also to follow through on the strategies that their financial planners were recommending. I like to use the start with why concept, the communication model that Simon Sinek shared in his TED Talk, Start with Why, as a way of sharing a big chunk of the missing piece that Carol had discovered. So in his TED Talk, On the left side of the screen is a communication dynamic that Simon had observed that humans use quite naturally and logically, actually subconsciously, when trying to convince people to take action, trying to educate people, or if you're um, a leader of a movement, oftentimes trying to get people to take action. What he found is as humans, we often follow this dynamic from the outside in. So, for an example, a financial planner who is talking about what they do for clients often lists the financial service areas that they provide. So, the investment management, the tax planning, the insurance. Or risk management area, they might run down the areas, the financial service areas, which would satisfy that what ring. And then if a client was, or a potential client was interested in learning more, they may ask how they do this for people, and they may go into the various technologies they use to run assumptions, deciding on the various financial goals and plugging that into the different technologies to spit out what the outcomes might be. But rarely does the conversation go into the why. And often this why piece is misunderstood as well. I think a lot of people just immediately assume, why are we doing this? We're doing this because we want to make an impact in people's lives. We want to help people live successful lives financially. But really, that's the outcome that you're searching for. The why piece has to do, frankly, with your own personal story. What ignited your passion for the work that you're doing? What drove you to do this work? Very similar to my mother's story, which I shared in the beginning. What sparked her interest to understand this? And so, what Simon shared was this actually correlates with different parts of our brain. If you were to take a horizontal slice of the brain, the outside is our neocortex. It's our smallest, weakest part of our brain, the newest part of our brain, but it's our analytical part that understands facts and data. It understands English, it understands language, it can give definitions to terms, but it's not the part of our brain that is responsible for building that motivation to take some sort of action or making a decision on something. It is really our limbic brain, our emotional brain, our creative brain, our big picture thinking brain that is the area that builds that sense, that urgency to take some sort of action. I like to say it makes it easier in my mind just to think of action follows emotion. If you are feeling stressed or anxious, then you feel compelled to do something so that you reduce that uncomfortable feeling of anxiety or fear. Or if you're really excited about something and want to pursue something because you have a passion around it, that also builds up this urgency within your body to take some sort of action. So Simon talks about if we can figure out ways to tap in more into the emotional brain in the work that we're doing with people, we may be more successful with helping them make decisions to change behaviors or to implement things that would be good for their own well-being. So the concept that Carol had come up with in the late 90s, she came up with this equation. And basically, this has become the philosophy that we teach through all of our trainings. The MQ in this equation, the money quotient, is a measurement of an individual's overall sense of financial well-being. And that's made up of two very important components. The IQ piece is their level of financial education. This is really speaking to that neocortex brain. How much do you really understand about the situation? That's important, very important. But also the EQ piece is incredibly important. This is the measurement of basically their awareness of their emotions and how that's affecting their decisions or affecting their behaviors and influencing their decisions. So sometimes in behavioral finance trainings, oftentimes they have talked about understanding the emotions in order to set them aside so that you can make objective decisions. That's not what we're talking about at Money Quotient. At Money Quotient, we're talking about understanding the emotions in order to take them into consideration when making decisions. So, an example of that might be a client who feels very anxious about having a large amount of debt via their mortgage. The objective advice might be to hold on to that mortgage and pay it down at a steady rate in order to take advantage of the tax planning that has been happening for that individual. But if you're taking that anxiety that they feel about that mortgage into consideration, over the long run, that chronic anxiety may cause them health issues in the future. So, when we're taking those emotions into consideration to understand what's best for the client, frankly, I think that is a demonstration of their fiduciary duty of like a financial planner, say. So it is important for us to be aware of the emotions and how they influence our decisions. Also, how we can utilize what they're passionate about to build that motivation to move forward and implement strategies that are healthy for them. So this overlying concept is really important to be aware of, that anybody is viewing a situation, a decision through two lenses. The emotional lens is actually mostly in our subconscious. It comes from a gut feeling. How do we feel about this situation? You may hear people say things like, I'm not going to go in this direction because it just doesn't feel right, but they don't have content text for that answer. So a lot of the emotional side comes from our subconscious. The rational side, we like to think is very objective, but in fact, it's also quite subjective because of confirmation bias. We're going to focus on the facts and the data that align with something we already believe, and we're going to ignore facts and data that contradict things that we feel we already believe. I think we see this happening everywhere, right? In our environment today, this is everywhere. But where these two overlap becomes that person's reality. It is their reality. It's their frame of reference from where they make all their decisions. So part of what we train, part of what we educate advisors, counselors, educators, financial planners to do is how can you help the client to become more aware and have more clarity around their own reality, their own frame of reference, and how can you as a professional also become more aware of their frame of reference? When you're able to do that, you're able to modify how you communicate with them. You're able to better understand what motivates them and what will help them to make certain decisions and change certain behaviors. And what we have found, and I'll be sharing some research with you here shortly, what we have found is the more you can bring personal life conversations into the conversation around financial, into the financial conversations, suddenly that financial literacy, those financial conversations become a lot more relevant and meaningful to the client. When it is more relevant and meaningful, clearly they're going to act on those financial strategies more readily than when we just fire hose them with education and financial strategies. So, a financial life planning process can be very effective with any type of client you may have. And the financial planning, when you look at it as a kind of a linear process with a client, what we recommend is first exploring that individual's values and what motivates them. What are they interested in? What are they passionate about? This part of the process has you looking back at their history and understanding what has shaped the values that they have today, what experiences have made them passionate about what they are interested in today. So there's this kind of movement over time. You first reflect on the past to understand the present and then make decisions about the future. So you take the understanding about their current values and motivations and help them work through a process where they create a vision of an ideal future that holds these values and the things that they enjoy and bring intrinsic reward. And it's amazing how specific goals that they are real excited about just naturally drop out of that vision. So now they have clarity around their values, which most people don't have, I might say, and a clear vision of what they want to work towards. Plus, you have helped to provide the financial strategies to work towards that very compelling vision. Now they have all the pieces for this decision-making framework that makes kind of the day-to-day decisions, helps it make it pretty easy for them. They know which decisions clearly are going to take them away from that vision and which decisions will bring them closer. So this can be a very empowering process for those clients. So not only does it sound logically, that it makes sense logically, but we actually also have scientific proof of the effectiveness of having these life planning pieces embedded in a relationship between a professional and the client. So this was a research project that Carol was involved in with a few different professors at different universities back in 2007 and 2008. And this white paper came out showing that when these processes, we're talking about values clarification processes, visioning processes, and goal setting processes that embedded their values within the goals, how they affected the planner-client relationship and essentially the outcomes. So those who had these embedded in their processes, the clients reported 2 to 4 times. The research came out showing 2 to 4 times higher statistical correlation to all the variables that they were testing. So much higher trust and commitment. Clients saying that they don't ever plan to leave this advisor. They were completely satisfied with the services. They had implemented all the strategies that were suggested by the professional. So follow through was a lot higher. Also, they reported that they felt more willing to share additional financial information as well as personal information with this advisor, and the referrals to friends and family. Actually, with Carol's research as well as another research project that happened soon after, we found that it could be like 10 times higher in terms of referrals to friends and family when these processes were embedded. So that was a pretty significant boost in success when these things were added to that relationship, which is really great. So just to get a little bit more specific about important topics that Carol discovered are important to talk about with clients to really support them in having a successful financial life. There are 4 specific topic areas that we have uncovered and teach about that really add to the effectiveness of the outcomes with clients. And one of those is around their level of life satisfaction and how that relates to their own core values. So a few important points to recognize about this topic. First of all, satisfaction clearly is highly subjective. And is defined by each person differently. So success by their definition of success. So for instance, you may have 2 individuals who both make $200,000 a year. one person feels as though they're really living an abundant life and have the things that they really enjoy, activities and things that they enjoy doing with their families. They feel very comfortable and secure, where another individual at the very same income level could be scared and feel frightened that about their future, feel like they're falling behind. So you can have the very same financial situation and two people feel very differently about it. So obviously, satisfaction is far more of an emotional issue, right, than it is a practical one. We don't know by just looking at the numbers. Also, an individual's values is what helps them to feel satisfaction in their life. So if they are aligning how they are spending their resources, so I'm not just talking about money, but I'm also talking about how are you spending your time and what are you putting your energy towards? We have limited energy as well. If those are aligned with our values, that's when we feel a sense of life satisfaction. But the opposite is true. So if they are not spending or managing their limited resources in a way that aligns with their values, they tend to feel a sense of dissatisfaction. We all know stories about wealthy people who are very unhappy with their lives. And this would be a big red flag that they're likely spending their resources on things that are not aligned with their own core values. So even for really wealthy people, these are important conversations to have. And it doesn't matter what your income levels are. These conversations can really help you to feel happier with your life when you are directing them towards those level or those values. So here is from our own model that we developed. There's a number of tools that are meant to be conversation starters, meant to plant seeds of thought and be conversation starters between a professional and their client. This is personal insights about life balance, a really fun exercise where it starts the sentence and then they complete the sentence. It is meant to kind of draw out what are some of their core values, what are things that bring them intrinsic reward, make them feel good and enjoy, are meaningful and purposeful. So another topic area, one second. Another topic area is biography. I kind of alluded to the fact that we have this kind of looking to the past to understand the present values and perspective, and then using that understanding to look forward. The biography tools are exactly what helps you to do that. And what's so important about this is because our past experiences, and particularly things we've observed in our childhood, are what create our current frame of reference. They create our conscious and there are things that we are consciously aware of and things that we are not conscious about that have created our beliefs and therefore our behaviors as well. Past experiences create what we're scared of today, things we observed in our past make us anxious about certain things or things we're concerned about. It also has shaped our values and priorities and things that we're passionate about, and that maybe our aspirations we have for the future are typically formed over time from those past experiences. So they can learn a lot about themselves, and their advisors can also help them to shape what might be a fulfilling future by understanding these things from their past. Money Memories is a tool within our True Wealth Planning model that helps them explore this. A lot of people haven't thought about their memories around money, what they observed with their parents, what was their first job, what was their first big purchase, how has, things they've learned from those experiences, how has that shaped their current financial management habits or perspective today? It can be a really fun and interesting conversation. Transitions is a third category that Carol uncovered. Clearly, we are all constantly going through change, whether we want to or not. And we can't always stop it from happening, but we can certainly do a much better job of proactively planning and building resilience. So, interestingly, research shows that transition is actually more of a psychological process than it is like a tangible process. So, the more we can understand about what happens psychologically when we are either facing change that's come on to us or we are actively trying to make change in our lives, the better we can do to help our support our clients and help them build resilience so they can move through those transitions smoothly. And nearly all life transitions have some sort of financial tether involved, even if it boils down to something in their cash flow. It usually has some kind of financial piece that goes along with it. So all transitions take kind of a practical strategy that certainly you can help provide, but it also takes emotional fortitude. So helping our clients build emotional resilience can help them to better be successful in their financial lives. Personal Insights About Change is a tool that we've created that helps them reflect on what has helped them to make it through challenging transitions in their past. If we can learn from our past experiences, we can apply what we've learned to moving forward and help them to have more confidence in facing transitions in the future. And the final area that has been overlooked, I feel like a lot actually in our financial industry, is a psychological issue a lot of people have with goal setting. So we all talk about goals, but if you haven't noticed, there's a big part of our population that actually doesn't like goal setting. They have a negative perspective of goal setting. So they are kind of coming in with these emotional blockers up, and they are not necessarily fully engaging in the conversations around goal setting because maybe they've failed at attempts they've had before, or they've had goals pressed upon them in work environments that leave them with a bad taste in their mouth. Or they have low self-efficacy. They don't think they're smart enough. They don't think they're skilled enough to be working towards goals for themselves. So there's a lot of reasons why people have difficulty around goal setting. And if we can recognize that, and rather than jumping in and talking about the goals they need to have, maybe we need to help them adopt a fresh perspective of goal setting in a way that takes down those emotional barriers and helps them to engage in that conversation more readily. And one of the ways that we teach can be very helpful in doing this, reframing the way we think about goals, is changing this SMART acronym that everybody has learned. This is all over the world. They've learned the SMART acronym, and I'm convinced that this has been something that has led to some of the negative feelings that people have about goal setting. It needs to be specific and measurable and attainable and realistic and tangible. Well, first of all, what do our clients even know about realistic? Many of them don't even know what is realistic or what is attainable, and it kind of takes your aspirations and it shrinks them down to only small baby steps. Also makes it into kind of a chore. So what we should be talking about with our clients are goals that are significant to them. It's meaningful to them. They feel attracted. They feel that rise in motivation, that urgency to do something. We want to help them figure out how it can not only be rewarding at the end to reach this goal, but let's talk about celebrating progress towards that goal as well, to keep their emotional side invested in this goal. And also, we want to talk about the timeliness. Is this conflicting with other things that are happening in your life? How can we make sure to arrange what we're implementing to not be overwhelming to you in a way that you can make sure that you can be successful in working towards that goal? So we have, this is the first tool in a sequence of tools that advisors can take their clients through to help them create that vision of an ideal future and really identify what are their values. This is the wheel of life. It kind of begins their journey of thinking about what would an ideal future look like. So all of these topics are kind of built into our education system, our educational offerings. The tools that I've shared as samples are part of our True Wealth model. So if you're interested in actually using the model that we developed, you would want to become an MQ partner. If you become an MQ partner, then you would have access to our model, our tools, our resources, and you can build out a practical process for working with your clients. So this is a graphic that represents our model. Basically, we've based our model off of the seven-step process of the CFP program, although it is equally as linkable to counseling or coaching models as well. So our explore stage is kind of a delivery model for the initial prospect stage when you're talking about what the questions that they have, the situations going on in their life to understand what the scope of engagement is going to be with that client. Once they have become a client, our engage and envision stage are a very robust self-discovery process. So they gain clarity and they have a real compelling vision and goals to move forward. Enlighten is a stage in which you are putting together the draft of your recommendations and how you're delivering it. That's a very important stage of the process because advice can kill conversations, which is a whole nother avenue I could go down, but we don't have enough time. So there's a lot of important things that to know about effective communication when you're sharing your recommendations. And then empower is about how can we best support that client in implementation and build that resilience so they can continue to be successful. In our True Wealth Planning model, we have client meeting templates. So this would show the sequencing of the tools that you would use. There's different items. You can just kind of, you can't really read it, I'm sure, but you can see that some of it's in blue and some of it's in green. These are resources that we suggest using in each individual meeting that you might have with a client. Some of them are practice management resources. Some of them are exercises that the client goes through to build their own self-awareness, and then you have a conversation with them about it. So they're kind of like recipes. If you follow the recipe, you know that you'll get to these four specific outcomes. One is the client will have much more awareness of their own frame of reference, which influences their behaviors, right? When they understand how did I develop my behavior, they can analyze, is this behavior helping me to be successful, helping me to reach the goals that I have? If it's not, then they make a decision themselves to make a change in their own behavior. They are a capable adult making their own decision without a person trying to push them into new behaviors or pull them into new behaviors. So this can be a very valuable piece of the process. They will also have higher awareness of their own values and motivations, what's most important to them in life. They use those values and motivations to create that very compelling vision. That's going to be the thing that keeps them motivated as they work towards the goals that are meaningful to them. And with your financial education and financial strategies that you provide, they have all the pieces necessary for that daily decision-making framework that empower them to move forward. So as I said, the recipes are built to help you get to these four outcomes with any recipe. As soon as you become really familiar with the tools in your library, then you can be more ad hoc with them, and recognize maybe the specific focus that your client needs, and then be able to use the toolkit as you see fit with your clients. But the recipes are a great way to get there from the beginning. So the things that really differentiate Money Quotient from maybe some of the other, there's not a lot of them, but some of the other organizations that offer behavioral finance coaching or life planning trainings is one, that we are all research and evidence based. This is a strong belief that Carol has always had, that everything that we use should be research based. It takes a multidisciplinary perspective too on how can we be the most successful, taking both the practical and the emotional aspects into consideration. As far as I know, we're the only organization that actually offers this specific model with a way to create a practical process that you can lean on to help your clients go through and get that self-awareness. A lot of what you'll see out there is more of coaching the advisor to better communicate, but doesn't necessarily have a practical process to follow. I think that one cool thing also is that it leads to very unique and personalized results for each individual. There's no fill this out and we're going to diagnose you. You're this type of person, and so this is what works for you. But rather, it has very unique results, their own core values, their own vision, their own goals, that sort of no cookie cutter sort of thing. And then we also offer the ongoing education and support in that implementation. Another thing that I think is really lacking from other programs. We are a high-touch organization, and we like to have close contact with all of our advisors and firm to help in any way that we can, which ends up being a very amazing community of advisors. They are a very generous group of people. So when new advisors are coming and joining our community, they are very forthcoming in sharing how they've developed their process at their firms as well. So that concludes my slides, but I wanted to go and actually give you a little bit of a sneak peek of what, if you were interested in becoming a Money Quotient partner, I thought I would give you a little bit of a tour of what the materials library that those partners have access to, as well as some of the other features. And then I'm going to give you a quick overview of what it looks like, what it looks like to become a Money Quotient partner. So this is when an advisor logs into their account, the materials directory is the default page that shows up. There's many ways to find tools and materials. This first section is all the materials are organized by the model that we've developed. So in other words, if you were in the prospect stage of your process, the very first stage, then you click on this, and what opens up is all the materials available to you for this stage of the process. So these are all individual exercises, things that you might use with that client in the prospect stage to understand their situation. This is the financial satisfaction survey. Actually, I can show this to you. You have a submittable format. So you grab your client link, you send that link in an email, they click on that link, and it opens up in a separate, it opens up in a URL, its own URL. So they put in their name and email, and they click on their answers. So in this case, they are rating their level of satisfaction with various aspects of their financial life, which broadens their awareness of what you can help them with. And once they submit that form, you get notified that they have submitted it, and then it shows up in this client submission area. And there's ways of organizing and filing them together right in the client submission area, or you can download them and keep them in a filing system maybe that you have as well. And you can easily put their completed form up on your screen. So if you're working with them virtually, that's a real easy thing to do in order to have a conversation. But all of these are potential tools you might use with that client. We also have practice management resources that provide you with like an email template you might send out before the meeting to help them understand the objectives of that meeting and what you're going to be talking about. There's a meeting agenda. There's guides for the advisor on how to facilitate that meeting in a very effective way. Other templates and things that you might use behind the scenes to help you capture the relevant information. We even have examples of how you can share your value proposition with a new client so they understand both the emotional benefits of going through this discovery process as well as the financial benefits of working with you, both in the first year and long term. So all of these are organized in the order you would use with a new client. We also have this whole section of materials that you would use with existing clients during different transitions they might be going through. We have our recommendations for what to do each year during an annual meeting. And then if they are retiring, there's some tools to really help them plan for that retirement, other different life transitions. And then there's some behavioral ones. Conflict between spouses, there can be some good tools there. Overspending, hoarding their finances or unhappy, post-divorce planning, legacy planning. And then if you might have business owners as clients, they can be a great sequence of tools to help them think about both their life and their business. We've also organized them by topic area. There's a whole huge practice management resource library. And then these are all additional modules and a client facing article library, a whole bunch of articles that you can use on your blog or you can use as individual interesting articles to send to clients. We also have 4 different self-study workbooks that you can provide to your client at any given time when it's appropriate. 2 of them around retirement. One of them is around how to design the elder years of your life in a meaningful and fulfilling way, and how do you communicate that to your adult children. I saved this one for last because this is a pretty large library here. These are all individual worksheets on these various transitions. So there's a whole bunch of work transitions a person might experience, financial transitions, family transitions is a big one, and then legacy transitions. And if you click on any one of these, I'll click on empty nest. There is an individual worksheet. The first page has a list of questions that gets you engaged in learning about their perspective on that transition. What are their values around that transition? What are their hopes for an ideal outcome? And then the second page of every worksheet has a bulleted list of potential financial implications of that transition. So you can say, as your financial counselor or as your financial planner, these are the things that I would want to help you make sure are in order to help you make that smooth transition. There's also books, resources, and organizations that are things that the client might be interested in reading or going and looking at that are all based on that particular transition. Now, these are all things that we have vetted that are research-based, evidence-based resources, and also are not just things that are trending in the moment, but have good support or education that goes along with it. So you can trust that those resources are good. And we do update those resources every 2 years. This is one of those years, so we'll be adding those new resources there. So as you can see, that's a very large library of easy to go to tools on very specific topics that might pop up with a client. We also have a very large education archive. These are on all different topics. So it's on demand. You can go in and watch a recorded webinar on a whole bunch of different topics that have to do with prospecting and marketing or refining your onboarding process, how to use the tools and resources with existing clients. These are all focused on practice management. Really, how are you building out your workflows and what would work smoothly for you in behind the scenes? Deep dives go into specific topics. Maybe we're talking about values-based investing, or maybe we're talking about how do we teach children good financial lessons, or oh man, there's a million topics in there. Um, uh, I don't know. There's a ton of them in there. The MQ and First Step in Action, these are webinars where our veteran Money Quotient partners, share their whole story. This is exactly how I've set up my client experience, and they walk through all their technology that they're using. So those are really great for new MQ partners to go watch, because it gives them ideas about how they might want to implement the Money Quotient process for themselves. There's also discussion forums. Our community is pretty active in here, talking with each other about different topics. That has been pretty valuable. And one thing I forgot to mention, all of the submittable forms are also brandable. You just upload your logo, it automatically populates all of the tools. There's also a place that you can add a security statement if you need to. Some people do, some people don't, but that's all easily achievable in the account area of the website. So, so the education, big library of tools and resources, on-demand education as well as part of the MQ partnership. So becoming an MQ partner, there's 3 important steps. Right now, you're in the learning about the Money Quotient process here, or what we're all about. One thing I will point out is there is a sampler package that you can try if you'd like to. It's not necessary, but this is a maximum of 3 months. We give you access to a few of the tools, a few of the resources. You can participate in our webinars, see some of the discussion forum. There is a cost to that. It's $150 to set it up and $50 a month for that initial those 3 months. If you do sign up for step number 1, a fundamentals training, then we will allow you to extend this sampler package so you can keep using those materials until you've completed this training. We have this training is kind of high level. We let you experience the whole process, the model that we've created as if you were a client. So you learn, how do we identify values and do the vision and do the goals. And you also facilitate the process for another person in the class. So you're able to have both a client perspective and an advisor perspective. We have both a virtual option that runs 5 half days to complete this fundamentals. And we also have a 3-day in-person option. There's a slight cost difference. The in-person option, we have lunches and catering and venue, so it's a little bit of a higher price to come to an in-person, but it's a great experience. And we also have hosted and private training options available. It also comes with 24 CE credits. If you're an AFC, which is financial counselors or coaches, it also comes with 18 CE credits for those affiliations. Then after the training is over, you're eligible to become an MQ partner. That includes the entire library. There's no choices to be made here. That has the education I mentioned before. I'll send out, or actually Jim will send out, this mind map that gives all the details, so you can zoom in and look at all the details here. But there's, the live webinars, there's on-demand education, and if we do courses, then 50% off those courses for MQ partners. That big materials directory I just shared, the discussion forums, And that subscription fee as an MQ partner is $145 a month to have all of those things. We do have a 1 year commitment, and then it's month to month after that. And this is also a requirement is our implementation experience, but there's three options to choose from. So when you sign up as an MQ partner, you at that same time, you're choosing either you want a self-study implementation course, you want a community implementation experience, or there's the everything, which is the community plus a lot of personal coaching. So I'm going to go to a couple other slides that breaks this down. The self-study course, we spread the fees over the first 12 months. So there's that 1 year commitment. We try to make it easy. We spread the fee over those first 12 months. So this would be $1,200 or $100 a month. It's a self-paced, very robust course, guided step by step, looking at each meeting, each stage of your process, helping you to become very familiar with your library of resources. You also watch demonstrations of facilitation techniques. So you practicing your active listening skills and also learning those facilitation techniques. We don't have any individual consultations with this program, and it doesn't have continuing education that goes with it either. The community experience is a 3-month experience. And it is with a cohort of students where we walk you through. I am one of the trainers, as well as Derek Hagan, who's a financial behavior specialist. He is an expert in financial therapy and motivational interviewing techniques. The two of us lead the whole cohort through. There are 7 study team meetings that we have. There are 6 group communication workshops. That comes with additional CE credit, and we do individual coaching calls with each student. So this experience is $300 a month for that first year. And then the big thing that comes with a lot of personal coaching, as well as a 2-day on-site visit at your firm, and has the community experience and personal coaching all year long. That is a larger fee of $30,000 for the year. So those are our 3 options for implementation. Then the second year and beyond would just be that $145 a month for the subscription, and you continue participating in all the education, as well as have access to all of those resources that I shared. I'm going to lose my voice, I think. I will stop sharing my screen, and I'll see if there's any questions. Feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question I can answer, and I'll also take a look at what's in the chat window.
I can save you a moment, Amy. So far in
Okay.
the chat, everything in there is from me.
Okay.
But if anything new comes up, or if anybody wants to speak up, now is a great time to do that.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions.
I just had a quick question.
Sure.
So when you have multi-advisory firms, are people sending like each advisor through the implementation, or do you have one person and then teach the others? Like, what does that look like?
No, every advisor who's going to be using the materials, conducting meetings with clients, facilitating those conversations, we have a requirement that they go through the trainings that we have, both the fundamentals and the implementation experience. They teach the facilitation skills and really help them to be good at it. So we require anybody who's going to be leading those conversations to do that. So it doesn't have to be like all the advisors at a firm. Sometimes firms will have like the life planning specialist person who does that with the clients. Other people work in teams where one person leads these conversations and the other person is more of the filling them in on the financial stuff, or, each advisor, runs their own meetings. There's a lot of different ways that they're figuring out how to do it. But if they're going to be leading those conversations, then they have the training and access to the materials and all of that. And also, Katie, I briefly mentioned that we have the option to do firm trainings, and I think that that can be really useful in even getting those who aren't advisors. They might be client service people or they might be administrative staff, but getting the whole team to understand what the approach of the firm is going to be so they can easily speak to it if they end up talking with clients or something. That has been a pretty valuable experience if you have a larger team of people. So I don't know if that's something of interest, but any other questions? Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to be reaching out. So if you want to set up a getting acquainted meeting and specifically talk about your firm and what your needs are, I can share what our recommendations would be for how to approach it. I will say that, most of our Money Quotient partners are smaller, independent, boutique type firms. But our larger firms that we work with have like 30 advisors. We have a few larger firms in that. I do think, however, if it's even bigger than that, this can help to create a more repeatable process for a larger firm that has multiple advisors that can be advantages for that too. I don't know what your situations are, but I'm just saying that. Okay. Um, so thank you so much, and I'll reach out in case you guys have more to talk about. Thank you. Bye.